What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Coast College Football Pregame Show, episode number 15. I know it seems like we just left, a quick turnaround after last night's show, but we are back. We are officially at Conference Championship Week. All the big boys play today. We were treated to one major game last night with another, smaller conference championship game as well. So we are well underway. One of our panelists had a long night last night, but we will get into that shortly. He's looking a little rough for wear, but I do give him credit. He still woke up and answered the bell this morning. He's got a little hate in his heart today, though. I see him rocking Hawkeye stuff. So
much hate.
Misery loves company, but we got an enormous jam-packed show planned for you guys today. We're gonna go over last week's big results. One of our panelists aren't going to like that either. And then we're going to go over last night's games as well. As always, we're going to go over the rankings, College Football Eliminator, which got very spicy after last night. We're going to go over all the scenarios that could possibly play out tonight and later today and tonight with who could, make the top four come noon tomorrow afternoon when they're announced. And we're going to give you all the previews for the big games tonight as well, plus our upsets and pick them. So we have a lot to get into. So before we do, just got to introduce everybody as always. First off, my Buckeye brother from another mother, Mr. One Loss himself, Mr. Probably not going to enjoy certain parts of the show today, Mr. Control.
Yeah,
how you doing?
I'm okay. Yeah, I get it. We lost. Okay, it's fine. Everything's fine. Florida State's going to come through. Oklahoma State's going to come through. Our season's not over. Let's go.
Control, you can see me in a bowl game, bro.
No. I'll let you play one of those bummy teams. Not me.
And last, but certainly not least, Mr. Oregon Duck, Mr. Clipped wing himself, Mr. Depressed, eye black, looks like he's been crying all night. I'm not sure. Can neither confirm nor deny. He's got the sunglasses on.
Maybe the same eye black from yesterday.
He's got sunglasses on. Mr. Oregon Duck, Mr. West Coast himself, Alex Elmore. How are you feeling this morning?
It's 7:08 in the morning where I'm at. The sun is not even up yet, and I'm wearing sunglasses, Bill. How the hell do you think I'm doing? All right? It's not been a great night for me. My throat was already ragged from COVID last week, and then I had to do all the screaming at the TV last night. You're lucky I didn't go on TikTok, me punching TVs or fists through walls and TVs, but I'm not a Cowboys fan, so I won't do that. All right. But no, I'm doing all right. It's another beautiful Saturday. I'm rocking my Hawkeyes gear. Go Iowa. Can't wait to get into that game. Cottrell over there looking sad and gloomy, just waiting for it all to be over. And it makes me happy that at least I was in a championship game to begin with. All right.
Hey, you better.
This fallen angel, I'm done talking for right now. Let's continue with this show because I'm afraid if I get started now, I'm not going to stop. So
hey, you better enjoy it while it lasted because it's going to be a while before you see another one.
Wow.
Oh, we'll see how that transfer portal works out.
It doesn't matter how it works out. You guys don't have the horses to compete in the Big Ten yet. So Pac-12
like
stuff,
that finesse recruiting class
that
in
finesse
the nation next year already.
That finesse stuff is fine, but you got to come play with the big boys. We play defense over here. We hit people over here. It's not going to be so easy. I'm just saying. It's easy to beat up on the Colorados, but, Big Ten's not like that.
I mean, we do have Indiana, but we'll get into that later, too.
Hey, they're going to the Big Ten championship game next year, apparently. So,
I don't know. Man, I get trying to make an impression on the new student body that you're going to coach, putting a bullseye on your back from the two best teams in the conference. Not sure. I don't know how smart of an idea that was. So, but we'll get into that later. But listen, we gotta get cracking because we do have a ton of stuff to go through. So let's start with last night. We're just gonna pull the Band-Aid off. All right. I thought we were gonna start with the other game. We're gonna start here. Washington, 34, Ducks 31. Washington has punched their ticket to the college football playoff. They are in where they will be seated. It's probably up for a little bit of debate depending on what happens later today, but they're in. They're 13-0, won the Pac-12, won the Pac-12 championship. They're 100% in. That is one of the 4 spots locked up and gone. Michael Penix Jr. had an okay game. I think, me personally, I said it right when it happened. I know you guys agreed. I think it's a fraud that they gave him the MVP. Dylan Johnson should have won the MVP of the game, and I don't think it was that close. Kid was playing on a hurt foot, 28 carries, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, balled out. I'm not going to get hung up on it. Michael Penix Jr. had no business winning the MVP of that game last night. That being said, I was very clear, not the result I thought we were getting, but I had a feeling this was the type of game we were going to get. Cottrell thought the same thing with the spread. I didn't, I said it on last night's show. I don't like when you're the second team in on kind of like a new game plan. And I feel like Washington looked more prepared to deal with Oregon than what Oregon did to deal with Washington last night. I think in big spots, they definitely had a section of that play sheet that they felt comfortable running to get a big third down or a big chunk play when they needed it. Bo Nix did not have his best game last night. I think his numbers are a little bit misleading. I think in big spots, he definitely didn't play the way he played the last 6 weeks when he took over the Heisman race, took the country by storm. That second line, I think, is a big, I want to say a reason. I think it's a big factor in why Oregon lost this game. And I am shocked with the year that kid had and how much they leaned on him at certain times, that Bucky Irvin only had touched the ball 9 times in the game last night. That was shocking to me. That kid is a playmaker. He's been dynamic all year. That really surprised me. I think that was a hole in the game plan. I think they tried to air it out against a team that would prefer to air it out. And I think Washington took a page from Oregon's game plan. They were more balanced than Oregon was. And honest to God, I think that really affected the game flow in a positive way for Washington. And I think it's one of the reasons they won. Alex, I'm going to let you jump in here because I'm sure you have a ton to say. I know Cottrell does as well, but this is your team. For lack of a better terms, you were officially eliminated last night. I will let you say your eulogy for your Oregon Ducks there.
Is it best to be eliminated early or to be eliminated last? That is the question. And to me, it all feels like crap. So, I knew this game was – so I had a very high hopes going into this game, very confident. You guys saw me on the show last night. I was thinking that 9.5-point spread is where it should be. And if you watched both teams play leading up to last night, and just like you guys, you thought the same thing. Vegas thought the same thing. I knew we were in trouble the second we had 2 straight 3-and-outs in the first quarter. We had the ball twice, ran 6 total plays. Washington out-possessed us by 13 minutes in this game. Essentially, just like you said, the roles were completely reversed. Oregon looked very one-dimensional. Bucky Irving should run the ball a whole lot more than 9 times. And even though, like I said, they were kind of running him in between the tackles, they weren't getting him out in space like they did in previous games. So he wasn't having a lot of success up the middle. He's more of a shifty back that's going to make people that's going to make people miss on tackles. Jordan James is more of the up the middle, heavy speed back. And when he got in the game, he was averaging 7 yards per carry, 5 carries for 35 yards. To me, if Bucky Irving's not having a great game, which he wasn't, why not give Jordan James the ball, especially in the second half when the Oregon Ducks were able to take the lead and make it more of a game? They should have been handing the ball to Jordan James a lot more. 5 carries when he's averaging 7 yards, that is completely unexplainable to me as far as why that did not happen that way. And Bill, you're completely right. When I was watching that game last night on 3rd and short, I was nervous because I knew they were just going to turn around, hand the ball to Dylan Johnson. Because guess what? We could not stop him. He was running like Derrick Henry last night. The dude's 6'1", 228. Obviously, he's not as big as Derrick Henry, but he was opposing his will as if he was. Oregon's defense could not get him down behind the line of scrimmage. Michael Penix Jr. won the MVP last night strictly off of name and Heisman hope. He did not win based off his being the best player of the game. And it's really tough for me to say that a Washington Husky was the best player of that game, but every time Dylan Johnson touched the ball, I felt nervous. That's just the type of game he had. He really stepped up and kind of carried his team last night. But another thing that really kind of is telling for us is they were not able to get the ball into Oregon's playmakers on the outside. Troy Franklin only had 34 yards and 4 catches. The last 6 weeks, he's been averaging 8 catches a game and over 124 yards. So that right there is a huge telling stat as to why the Oregon Ducks offense was not getting rolling into the second half. And even in the second half, Troy Franklin, even though he did hurt his shoulder, he was still on the field. Why have him out there as a decoy if that's the plan? They have a bunch of wide receivers on the bench, and Trayshawn Holden, who stepped up in the second half, and Tez Johnson, who had the best game out of all the receivers with 68 yards. This game could have gone either way, especially in the second half when Oregon took the lead. But when it came down to it, Oregon did not bring their clutch gene to Vegas with them yesterday.
Cottrell, I'm sure you have stuff to add. I know you look at games kind of, very similar to the way I do usually. Very curious to see what you have to say about this.
Yeah, so this game is interesting because, again, I think obviously, Washington started the game hot. I feel like they heard all the noise from the outside. Like, Kalen DeBoer definitely had them ready to go there. Like, they think this team's 10 points better than you. Let's go out there. Let's punch them in the mouth. Like, that's exactly what they went out there and did. But then once we got into that second half, it really felt, again, like Oregon is the better football team between these two schools. To me, it just seems like Washington is a bad matchup for what Oregon does. Washington has the explosive playmakers on the outside to beat these Oregon corners. Now, I know Oregon has had a great defense pretty much the entire season. Washington's receivers are better than what Oregon has in the secondary. And with Michael Penix Jr. having the accuracy that he does, he's able to exploit that. Now, I wasn't expecting Dylan Johnson to have as great of a game as he did this time around. First time, he definitely was good in spots, but he wasn't dominant. He didn't impose his will against the Oregon team. In this game, that's exactly what he did. And it was very balanced. It was very complimentary for Washington in what they were doing. But on the other side of things, I don't know why it took so long for Bo Nix to really get in the rhythm. I do think part of that is on Dan Lanning. There were a lot of screens called that game. Earlier in the year, you saw pretty much all season for Oregon. Yes, they would run screens sometime to get their playmakers involved. But the big thing for them was that they were letting Bo drop back and air it out. And so the first half, specifically that first quarter, it really felt like Dan Lanning was being a little bit more conservative because the first game they lost by being as aggressive as they were. So it kind of felt like he came out, was very conservative with the play calling, and then they got down big, 20-3 in the first half. That's a steep hole to climb out of. Now, obviously they did. They were up 24-20 at a point in that game, but I feel like that definitely set the tone, at least for Oregon, early on. Now, for Washington, I got to give them credit because even after they let up 21 unanswered, they were ready to answer the call. They went right downfield, scored a touchdown, got right back up. And then from that point forward, they really didn't look back. So I was surprised that Bucky Irvin and his usage only get 9 carries, but you could tell early on he wasn't the guy. It was Washington game plan well for him. Alex, you just mentioned their backup running back's name, but he was running more effectively than Bucky Irvin in this game. So I kind of understand why he only had 9 carries. The one thing that I don't really like, though, is that once they got in that red zone area, that's when Bucky Irvin is going to, shoulder that load and can punch things in. But give Washington credit. They kept finding ways to be in these close games, and they kept finding their way on the right side of things. So this is another one where it kind of felt like Washington was going to run away with it. Even in the last, fourth quarter, last couple minutes there, they gave up a touchdown to Oregon in 6 seconds, it felt like. And, Kalen DeBoer still had the guts to throw the ball on a third down call and, seal the game.
30 seconds.
A couple things, I want to jump in here, then we can move on to the next game. I think the one point that Cottrell just hit that I was going to hit on too. I think Dan Lanning got in his own head, and I said that was, I gave you 3 keys of the game last night, and you look at them in hindsight. Washington won 2 out of the 3. I said Bucky Irving had to have a big game. He did not. I said Bo Nix needed to outplay Michael Penix Jr., which he did. And I said Dan Lanning can't get outcoached by Kalen DeBoer, and he did. I agree with Cottrell 100%. I think he almost came out and overcompensated for being too aggressive the first time these guys played and was almost too conservative. I'm going to disagree a little bit with the Bucky Irving thing. I think they ran him in way too many predictable sets. Like, 2nd and 1, Washington's got 9 guys in the box. They know they're handing the ball off and they're not audibly or checking out of something. It was stuff like that. I also feel like Oregon didn't really change their game plan for this game, which was a little bit surprising to me. I feel like they tried to play this game very similar to the first one, and I think they looked at it like, take our mistakes out, our missed field goals out and stuff like that, and we'll play the same game we won. And I feel like Washington showed up with a different game plan. Washington was like, we're not going to try to go blow for blow with these guys. We're going to run the football more, try to control the clock a little bit, keep the ball out of Bo Nix's hands a little bit, and see where we're at. And that game plan worked flawlessly for them. Listen, I'm not going to disrespect Washington and say Oregon's still the better football team. I think Oregon's a very talented football team. I think this is a team that if this was next year, they would still make the playoff probably. They'd probably be one of the at-large teams, probably around 10 or 11 and 12. I would have no problem with that because I think they're a very good football team. But at that being said, I think you have to start giving Washington credit. They've beat them twice now, once at home, once on a neutral field. They seem like they're the more adaptable team. So I think you have to give the Huskies some credit. I really do. I think they proved again last night that they're a top 4 team, and that's where they're going to be. So
for sure, got to give them
lucky
credit.
The game wasn't in Autzen.
Okay. I for sure want to give them credit for what they've done. Like I don't say Oregon's a better team as a slight. I'm just saying, like, I think if you put this Washington team up against the other teams in the country, I think that spread looks a lot different than what it does with Washington. So, like, I know the spread came out as 5.5 for Michigan. Like, if they're playing Oregon and Oregon had to win this game 34-31, I don't think it'd be 5.5. I think it'd be a little tighter. Same with Georgia. Same with, some of these other schools as well. So I don't mean it as like a disrespect thing because Washington's definitely earned their stripes here for sure. But I just think Oregon would play these teams. Styles make fights. We say it all the time on Wire to Wire. We're talking about UFC and things like that. So I just think this is one of those things where Washington just kind of is the kryptonite for Oregon.
Well, you highlight the one mismatch. Oregon's corners are not great, and then what Kalen DeBoer did a great job of, and you saw it on the game clinching play when they went for it. He made one of Oregon's safeties come down and cover one of those wide receivers every time, and it was just a huge mismatch. Guys had to play 5-6 yards off the line as a cushion so they didn't get burnt. And they just kept running 3-yard outs, and they couldn't stop them. You got to give him credit for putting his players in the position to win. And that was, again, Oregon's front seven is nothing to sneeze at all. They're very good. If there's a weakness in the Oregon defense, and we've been saying it all year, it's the back four. And they're not terrible. They're just, to Cottrell's point, they're not necessarily equipped to deal with a team that can run 4 wide receiver sets all the time. And that's something Washington's very comfortable doing. But enough of this. I'm sure we could talk about this game.
Yes. Let's move on.
We'll move on to this one. I love that we just skipped the other championship game because Alex just wants to go right to throwing Cottrell under the bus.
Well, what happened was it was late. All right. I only had time to make one slide. Okay. And it was which game we cared about more. So.
I don't know. We'll go this one, though. I like this one. Get a little music for this game.
Oh wow! Now we're playing music on the show. We do not own rights to the music to that music, by the way.
They'll listen. They love me. They'll let me play it. Don't worry about it. The game, most watched football game of the year again.
Of course,
broke records again. Of course, I will share
nothing
that.
else to do at 9 a.m.
No, please.
Yeah, over on the West Coast.
Listen, you better get used to noon kickoffs, brother, because you're going to have a bunch of them next year. So you better get used to it. Big Ten is built on tradition. We kick off at noon. None of this 7:30 junk. That being said, listen, I will give credit where it's due. Ohio State played a very good football game. This game, in my opinion, lived up to the hype. You could definitely see the improvements from the last 2 years and Ohio State making adjustments and, Jim Knowles running the defense differently. This came down to, kind of like we said it was going to, was who's going to execute in the big spot. JJ McCarthy had a great game. Blake Corum broke off a couple big runs when he had to. Travion Henderson, I thought in my opinion, I thought he had a very good game. He had a very tough, kind of scrappy game. Marvin Harrison Jr. did what he always does, and it was helped out even more when Will Johnson got hurt. After Will Johnson got hurt for us, we really had a hard time even keeping him in front of us. So that kid is just on a different level. And I'll say what I said all year. I think he's the best player in college football, and I mean this. I don't think it's close. I think that kid is. You can just. I don't care who drafts him next year, as long as they have an adequate quarterback. I think the kid has all pro written all over him. If he stays healthy, I think he's a Hall of Famer. There's no quarterback in next year's draft that I would take over him. And I mean that. And watching him again on Saturday, I feel even better about it. I think if you're asking me who the best player in college football is, I don't care about the Heisman crap, none of that. It's Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion. He's that good. That being said, JJ outplayed Kyle McCord, and we knew that was going to be one of the big matchups. I think both these defenses showed up. It was a great game. I will be 100% honest with everybody. I was not as comfortable watching this game as I was the last 2 years. I did think we were going to win. I knew it was going to kind of be an edge of the seat type game. I knew it wasn't going to be like it was the last 2 years. I think everybody played well. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and brag about it. I think I said it before. I think Michigan's the better team. I think they showed that. They won by 6 points. I think it was a very competitive football game, and I think it lived up to the hype. I mean, Ohio State was driving with 30 seconds to go in the ball to possibly win the game. We got some pressure on them. We threw kind of a bad pass over the middle. Rod Moore picked it off, and that was the game. It was everything it was supposed to be. And I think that's why almost 20 million people watched it. They knew what they were going to get, number 2 versus number 3 in the country. The last 4 or 5 years, this game has been, for lack of better terms, except for the one blowout, they've been very good football games. So, Cottrell, I'll let you hop in here. I can't believe I just gave you that many compliments, but, I do, I have to be unobjectionable and, give credit where it's due as well.
Yeah, and I see, Andre, I see you in the comments here. Let's not forget, my friend, your favorite team is Georgia Tech. I don't know the last time that they won anything important. You get to hang your hat. Maybe, this year, I guess, you can be happy that, I guess, Georgia Tech didn't lose by 50 to Georgia. I guess that's something without Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers, So be proud of that. Your Falcons are 5-6. I understand you hate on winning football. Browns 7-4. Ohio State's 11-1. They still got a shot to make the playoff. I understand. So,
Georgia Tech couldn't beat Georgia's freshman team last week? You mean that game?
You throw anybody out there. I mean, I could give you. We got St. Edwards in Ohio. They've won 7 out of the last 14 state championships. They might go out there and beat Georgia Tech. But anyway, back to the game though.
Andre, remember when Bowling Green came to Georgia Tech this year and beat you guys by like 20? Good times. Good times.
That's enough shitting on those bad sports down there in Georgia. Ohio State, I mean, look, key to the game was going to be finding ways to stop Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. And for the most part, they did that. It was very interesting to see that after Zach Minter got hurt, Michigan went out and they scored the very next play. I kind of thought it was going to be the reverse side of things where it's like, hey, he's clearly their best lineman. Maybe they're going to be able to take advantage of this matchup here. You hold them to 3 points there. Maybe it's a slightly, different ball game. They were obviously already in the red zone, but got to give Sharon more credit. He was very aggressive as an interim coach. I know it could be potentially tough to be in that spot because if you're aggressive and it doesn't work out for you, hey, everyone's at your head. They're talking about, Jim wouldn't have done this. And, maybe we win this game if Jim's on the sidelines, things like that. So he stuck to his game plan. I'm sure beforehand they told him like, hey, be in our spots. We're going to pick and choose, but we want to be aggressive when we can. So give him credit for that. Knew it was going to be a tough uphill battle when, obviously both defenses were holding strong pretty early. Kyle McCord threw the pick, and then that's really what got things rolling. And then at the end of the day, Ohio State, they weren't able to punch the ball into the end zone when they absolutely needed to. I feel like Marvin Harrison obviously had a great game in this one. Would have liked to see him with more targets. He was having his way with the Michigan secondary, especially like Shally said after Will got hurt. But you know, just tough game up there in Ann Arbor, and now we just got to see what happens.
We threw the sink at him. Marvin even said it after the game. He said there was a couple times they lined up in stuff that he wasn't exactly sure what they were in and what exactly he was supposed to do. And to Cottrell's point, we tried to limit his targets as much as we could, and he still had 5 catches for 118 and a touchdown. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him and Will at the beginning. Obviously, Will got the interception early, and then I think it might have been the next series. Actually, I think Harrison made that crazy over-the-shoulder catch on a throw from McCord that was kind of on the wrong side of him. He still adjusted and made the catch, which was a great catch. Obviously scored a touchdown later, but that was a fun battle to watch. If you want to watch good versus good, Will Johnson is going to be a top 15 pick next year when he's eligible. He's a very talented corner, and he went up against the best. And you're never going to stop Marvin Harrison, But I think if you look at what you got out of him when he was covering him before he went out the game with an injury, I was impressed. And like I said, I can't hold anybody in higher regards than I do Marvin Harrison Jr. Cottrell touched on one thing, was the Sherrone Moore thing. That guy, I think it's kind of a lot of the rumors I'm hearing with people close to the program is after tonight, they expect Harbaugh to sign his extension next week. And I'm hearing anything from 4 to 5, and that's going to be it. He's going to retire, and they've pretty much already put in writing that Sherrone Moore is going to be the coach in waiting. He's getting a big raise. So is Jesse Minter. We talk about it a lot on Wire to Wire about black coaches getting their chances and stuff of that nature. For him to be who's going to end up, by all intents and purposes, the way it looks like he's going to be the first black head coach at the University of Michigan. That's a big deal, and he should be proud of himself. And I couldn't be happier for him. I know we joked a little bit about the press conference and all that stuff after the first game, but the guy is a good guy. He's a very good recruiter. He's proven now that he can coach in big spots. I do give Harbaugh credit. They were talking to Sherrone Moore after the game, and they said, what did he tell you? And he said, don't worry about anything. He said, really just go coach your game, coach this game the way you want to coach it, be aggressive, be you. Nobody's going to second guess you on the coaching staff. Just, and if it works, it works. If not, if you think you made the right call in the right, in that time for that spot, then we live with it. So I thought that was cool from Harbaugh as well, and, I think we're going to see where everything goes here. I'm going to say something that I didn't think I was going to say. And, I don't think there's 4 better teams in the country than Ohio State. And I'll leave it at that. I wish
Bill,
there was.
What are you talking about? The difference between the number 2 team in Michigan and the number 17 team in Notre Dame is that Michigan was able to catch the interception. That's the only difference. Ohio State should have 2 losses this season. Okay, after watching this last game, I am completely sold. Ohio State is not one of the 4 best teams in the country.
I would tell you, minus us and maybe Georgia, I don't know if there's another team in the top 8 that if you put them on a neutral field that Ohio State doesn't beat.
I could give you a couple teams right now, but we'll save that.
Sure.
And I would
give it to us.
We're
here.
Alabama beats Ohio State. Texas beats Ohio State. Let me see. Oof. There's 2 more teams right there.
I would.
Hey, Bill, you know what's funny? That's funny. No, I'm serious. You know what's funny?
What?
He didn't say Oregon. That wasn't the first team out of his mouth.
That's because I get to see you in a bowl game when neither of us are in the CFP, baby. So I can talk shit then.
No BS. I hope that happens. Do we legit have a good shot of it happening?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It would depend. Because Louisville is going to be the one team that could screw this up. Because I think it's the Peach Bowl that has they're able to get the SEC team and the SEC. They're able to get the Big Ten team and the ACC team. So I think if Louisville loses, then we got a good shot at it. But if Louisville wins the ACC championship and Ohio State doesn't make the playoff, we're probably playing Louisville in a bowl game.
I'm not gonna be.
I would like to see Oregon and Ohio State play. Like I said, if we're not making the CFP, that's the game that I would be totally cool with playing in.
Here's the only problem with it, and this is where it gets distorted. We're sitting here talking about saying we want that game, but I want that game at full strength. Here's the reality of it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a nutcase if he plays in that game. Just being honest.
Bo too.
I agree. I was going to get to Bo next, and I agree. Bo Nix is the same thing. Bo, I mean, I guess is probably a little bit of a less likely to get hurt. If either one of those kids play in that game, though, they're nuts. They're nuts. They've put on tape what they're going to put on tape. And honestly, in both their cases, they're not going to look any better than they already have this year. So it just wouldn't be the same. But it'd be fun for the show. Don't get me wrong. And I would love to hear you two guys go at it. But you know, it would depend on what we have. Next up, the Iron Bowl. And this is a prime example of why I'm going to disagree with Alex saying Alabama on a neutral field is going to beat Ohio State. They had zero business winning this game against a very, very mediocre Auburn team. Jalen Milroe, numbers are a little misleading. He had 40 of those 259 on the last throw of the game. You know, Auburn does not have a great defense by any means. Ohio State has an elite defense. Hate to say it, they do. I am very. I'm not even going to get into the push off in the back corner of the end zone that everybody's just glossing over because it's Alabama. I promise you, if it was anybody else, all hell would have broke loose. Like if the roles were reversed and that was Auburn's guy pushing off to win the game, I can't even imagine the rant Nick Saban would have went on in the post-game press conference. But listen, to usually get to the end, you got to win a game like this that you shouldn't win. Got to give Alabama whatever credit you want to give them for getting there. Jermaine Burton is kind of starting to be, you know, looking like he's going to be the number one. Jace McClellan had a very average game. Again, these numbers are not impressive against an Auburn team, and it's not good. They got beat on their home. They gave up 38 to New Mexico State 2 weeks ago. It is not a good football team. Auburn is smack dab at the beginning of a rebuild. Alabama pulls it out. They're going to play Georgia today. I don't know. You guys can talk about it. I was very underwhelmed. You know, I'm not going to give away too much when we get to pick them, but I don't know. I think it's if you could put the one thing this game showed me, if you can get Alabama behind the sticks and put them in predictable situations, they are a very beatable football team.
I mean, you know, like I said, I watched this game, and the craziest thing about the fact that this score is as close as it was, and that Alabama had to come down to basically a 4th and 30 throw in the corner of the end zone to win this game, is that Auburn had 3 turnovers, 1 fumble, and 2 interceptions lost. So Alabama completely dominated.
Oh no, he froze on us.
He froze, kind of like
legs
Oregon
and his arms
defense last night.
Man, I can't wait till we talk about Iowa. Okay, anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, I mean, like I said, the game was crazy. I was watching the game. My daughter called me. I answered. I went back. Alabama was leading. Like, that's how quick it happened. I was on the phone for 13 seconds and missed the play. Had to go back and find the replay. And it was also, it was wild. The fact that he rolled out to the right, threw it across the field, corner of the end zone, perfect pass with the push off, you know, arguably a push off. I think there was a lot of hand battling there. I'm cool with the no call there. You know, a deciding play like that to come down to a penalty call, that would be a rough pill to swallow after watching that game. And realistically, Alabama had its most penalties of the season with 8 for 72 yards. They did every single thing they could to hand Auburn this game, and they still came out and pulled it out. Just like you said, with Michigan pulling it out over Ohio State, Washington pulling it out a close one over Oregon, these games are going to happen. Alabama was already looking to the SEC championship past Auburn, and I think Alabama comes out, you know, swinging hard this game today, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I'm okay with this 3-point win for Alabama. Auburn played tough, and I think that's honestly, a good segue into next year. Auburn battling Alabama tough, going to a bowl game, and I think they'll go into next season with a chip on their shoulders, and I think we'll see some better results next season. But like I said, this game was a great game to watch. I'm glad that it came down to as close as it did.
So I'll start with the whole Auburn thing. Auburn's in a great spot. Them being able to battle Alabama like this now. They will have to find a quarterback next year. Peyton Thorne will not be at the helm, but they got great news from their recruiting class. They just flipped the #1 receiver in the country in Cam Coleman. So him going down to Auburn, he'll probably have an opportunity to play pretty much right away. So that's a huge get for them. But specifically with this game, I agree with Alex in the sense of Alabama was 100% looking ahead. It was a situation, and we've talked about other games as well, like our Superdog picks. Why did we all cash on our Superdog picks last week? Most of these teams were looking ahead to the following week if they had something to play for. So I agree there. Alabama was definitely looking ahead, and it's a rivalry game. We knew it was going to be a close game. I'm pretty sure, if not all three of us, two of us picked Auburn to cover that spread. Now, we didn't think they were going to win the football game, but we thought they were going to cover because this is just that kind of game. The one thing with Bama that I will say I was kind of surprised with, their defense had started to look better and better each game so far throughout this season. And for Auburn, they were able to pretty much get whatever they wanted on the ground. Obviously, they didn't have much success throughout the air. They got Peyton to turn the ball over a few times, but I was very surprised to see Alabama get ran all over the way that they did. And then on the flip side of things, you talk about Jermaine Burton finally becoming a presence. Nick Saban said after the game, that wasn't really their game plan. Obviously, they know how explosive Jermaine Burton is, but he's just one of those guys where, yes, they do try to scheme him open, but they don't try to force the ball to him. So I think that's a good thing and a bad thing. I think against a team like Georgia, you have to have ways to get your playmakers the ball. But specifically in this game, we saw it with Washington State and Washington. We saw, Ohio State, Michigan. Like, somebody has to lose these games. It shouldn't have been Auburn here. I'm not going to lie to you. It shouldn't have been Auburn.
Nope.
I think it's one thing if Bama had went down and scored on the last drive, just a regular drive. 4th and 31 can't have – the odds of converting a 4th and 31 is so low. I mean, Auburn did everything the wrong way. One, why are you only rushing 2 people? There's 31 yards. You don't want to give the quarterback enough time to sit back there and make a precision throw. 2, why are you in man-to-man coverage when both outside receivers were single covered? Essentially, it's a 50-50 ball, whatever way you throw it. 3 in the middle got double team. Your 2 outside corners were one-on-one. That's an absolutely stupid scenario as well to begin with. And then the third thing is, why not have everybody in the end zone? The only way that they can beat you is if they put the ball in the end zone. Make them throw the ball out there in front of you and get one of your guys to go out there and make a tackle. So Auburn lost this game because of sheer stupidity and bad coaching. I give Milroe credit for putting the ball where he did. I give the receiver credit for making the catch in the back of the end zone. I do think it was a push-off. But I also agree with Alex. I'm not calling that there because I don't want a game to be decided on a penalty. Auburn should have won this football game. They didn't. Now they got a shot to go play Georgia and get a spot in the playoff.
Boom.
Boom. All right. This is where we sit going into this afternoon. Obviously, Washington is, like I said, is kind of cemented in there now, somewhere in that top 4. Depending on what happens later this afternoon. Oregon is going to drop a little bit. I'm not sure how much. Again, that will depend on, I think, what happens this afternoon as well.
9. They'll go to 9.
I don't think so. I think they'll be the top-rated 2-loss team. So I think they'll sit at 8 with everyone bumps up behind them. I think they'll sit in front of Missouri.
If they're staying consistent with what they are, if Bama loses, they should be ahead of Bama. I don't know.
That's why I said 9. No foreshadow.
Jesus.
I went over this on wire to wire. I think coming into this week, Michigan should have been 1. They have the best resume between them and Georgia, pretty much in every single category. It's really not close. Obviously, if Georgia beats Bama tonight and we beat Iowa and they wanted to flip-flop them back, I would have been fine with that. I think we're leaving Georgia there just because at this point now. And I'm sure that a lot of that has to do with they want them to get whoever's in the 4 seed. So maybe that'll happen. Maybe it won't. We'll see. Other than that, I mean, I don't have a whole lot. I mean, it's kind of the normal, the drum we've been beating on. I mean, Tennessee's still down there. Tulane won another game last week. They still didn't move up in front of anybody. It's just a joke. Kansas State lost, didn't they? I think they did. They lost their last game. They're still ranked somehow. This is a joke at this point. These bottom teams. It's just atrocious. Liberty won their championship. Liberty won the championship last night. They're 24. They haven't moved up yet. Obviously, these will change tomorrow. The last ones will come out tomorrow. But some of these teams got to move. Kansas State, I think they're another one. I think they're 7-4 now. I mean, they can't be ranked. They lost on their home turf to Kansas. Enough is enough. 12 and up, I think we're okay. Again, I don't think Missouri is better than Penn State, but
they need to put some respect on SMU, man. SMU should be in that 25 spot over Kansas State.
Agreed. You're not going to get an argument from me. Me and Cottrell were very adamant about this on Wednesday. I want to see SMU. Give me James Madison. Give me Liberty. Give me Tulane. Those are the teams you should have 20 through 25. If you're a 4-loss Power 5 team, then you're not good because you're not playing more than 3 or 4 good teams a year. So you probably lost all your games against good teams, exactly like Tennessee. Tennessee's best win is Kentucky. The other 3 games they had that were against good football teams, lost every single one of them, got blown out in every single one of them. They shouldn't be ranked. It's just enough's enough. It's just enough's enough. So I don't want to get hung up on this too much because we got to get to it. We're going to get – go ahead.
I was going to say, now that we're here, though, do we want to talk about scenarios here? Now that we got the full rankings in front of us, do we want to wait till the game previews are done? How do we want to do it?
I was going to go to Eliminator next, and then we could do scenarios after that. Okay. Because we do kind of have one team that's 100% in now. So that's why I said I don't want to get hung up on this too much. We go to Eliminator next, move who we got to move, and then we can kind of go through everything through here. So, Shell wasted no time putting that red X to Oregon either.
He did that before the game even started yesterday, just in case.
He might have. You never know. So here's what we got left. Washington. I don't know if we give Washington a gold star or how we're going to do this. Washington's in. They're 100% in. They could be anywhere from. I guess
they're VIP.
I guess in theory they could be 1 if both teams have them lose.
I was going to ask what's the scenario where Washington can get into 1, but like you guys said, we're going to talk scenarios here soon, so we won't get into that.
That's the only scenario they can. Michigan would have to lose to Iowa, and Georgia would have to lose to Alabama. And then
my question is how close would Iowa have to make the game against Michigan for Washington to be able to jump Michigan? You think so?
Okay. Doesn't matter.
If Michigan wins, they don't go any lower than 2, in my opinion.
I agree.
But Washington's in. Washington is, I guess the one advantage of playing on Friday night is your job is now done. They can sit back today and just relax. They don't have to worry about trying to get people. They're not in Cottrell's shoes, praying for a miracle. They won their game. They're in. They can relax, have some pizza today, and just sit back and enjoy a great day of football. That's what they always give these kids. They give them pizza all the time. When you're in that kind of shape and you work out as much as you can eat pizza whenever you want. I remember those days.
Me too.
Now I just eat pizza. So Alabama, they have. Listen, they have they hold the destiny in their hands today. They control their narrative. Florida State does as well. Texas, I guess, is still the oddball looking in here.
I disagree with that. I think Texas is the one that controls their own.
They
need help. Everybody needs help. Outside of Florida State, everybody needs help.
Georgia and Michigan have the easiest thing here. If they win, they're in.
Facts.
The next three is where it gets sticky. And Washington, for lack of a better terms, took some of the chaos away from this today. You know, if Georgia wins, Alabama doesn't matter. They're gone. Then it comes down to that Florida State game. If Florida State wins that game, Texas isn't getting in. I hate to say it, they're not.
Agreed.
So that's what I'm saying. So Texas doesn't hold their future in their hands. They need to take care of their business at 12:15 today, and then they become the biggest Louisville fans in the world.
I'm saying I think if Bama somehow beats Georgia, I still have Texas ahead of Bama because head-to-head matters, and the committee is doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on that.
I agree with you, but does the committee all right, let's get to the fun one. Michigan wins, okay? So they're locked in at least number 2. If we're going to play the game of Alabama wins, I'm all for that. Let's do that. If Alabama wins, Michigan goes to 1. We agree?
Yes.
I would say Washington has to go to 2 then?
Yes, undefeated.
Okay. And we're saying, what are we saying at that point with Florida State? We're saying they win?
It's hard to say with Florida State because we don't know who's going to be the quarterback today. So let's just say for this.
I say for argument's sake, let's say Florida State loses because I don't.
Okay.
The confusing part about them is that with Tate, with their third string quarterback, I still think Louisville has a great chance to win this football game, and you see the spread kind of showing you that. And
it went down a point, though.
1.5. But clearly they think this game is tight without Jordan Travis being under center.
Obviously. I mean, Jordan Travis was a top 4 or 5 Heisman pick through week 7. I mean, right. So it was, you take any of these teams quarterback off, they're all screwed. So, but okay, so if we're saying Florida State loses, that's what we're saying, they're out. Listen, people can say what they want. The committee's being good to Florida State, and they're being consistent, and they're doing what they have to do.
Yep.
The committee. Correct. The committee just needs to be given a reason to not put them in the top 4. Because I hate to say it, listen, if they end up 4 and they play Georgia at 1 without Jordan Travis, they're getting smoked. And I don't mean that by any disrespect at all. Like I said, if
you can be disrespectful, Bill. It's okay.
No, I mean, but if you took Carson back off Georgia, or you took, JJ away from, Michigan, or Michael Penix Jr. away from Washington, those teams are all probably getting beat too. All right. So like we talk about how important the quarterback position is, and it's true for a reason. So if we're saying Florida State's out, so we got Michigan 1, Washington 2, I think Texas has to be 3 then, right?
In my book, yeah.
Okay, so here's where it becomes, and we're gonna double back to Florida State because that's the part where I don't think the committee has the balls to do the right thing. But for this scenario, we'll say Florida State loses. Then I think that's your top 3. I think you go Michigan, Washington, Texas, and then I think you go the winner of Georgia. You would go. You would have to go Alabama then, right?
I mean,
if you're saying Alabama beats Georgia,
I think that's fair.
I agree. I think it's gonna be this scenario and the one we're gonna go to next are the ones that I don't know if I trust them to do the right thing.
So here's my thing: is that if Georgia beats or Alabama beats Georgia, how close are we saying this game is? Are we saying this is like a 3-point game, or are we saying this is like? I don't think it matters personally.
I don't think it matters. If Alabama beats Georgia, they're in, and they're gonna be a 1-loss SEC champion.
Okay, but here's the other part of that.
And their last win would be against the number 1 team in the country.
I like where you're going, Alex.
Here's the other part of that question, though. If Alabama beats Georgia, does Georgia drop out of top 4 for Ohio State? Or does Ohio State get left out in the cold?
Georgia is not. If Georgia loses the game, we have absolutely no shot. Georgia is getting the benefit of the doubt over Ohio State every time. Agreed. Even though it's a loss to Bama, it's just not happening.
Cottrell, where did you think I was going with that? With when I started asking questions, you were like, I see where you're going. Where did you think I was going?
I thought you were going to ask, does Georgia still have a way to make it into the playoff? That we won 29 straight. The only loss, if it's a close game and they lose to Alabama on a neutral field, you're saying that Alabama is one of the 4 best teams in the country. Does that also mean that Georgia has a claim to be there?
All right. Well, I mean, there's the discussion then. I mean, if you're saying Michigan's 1, and Washington's 2. If Alabama wins, we're agreeing they're in. Do they have the balls to say? See, because that's where it gets it. I mean, I don't think you can do this, but do they say Georgia's still unequivocally better than Texas, and they leave Texas out?
I think it's very possible. I will tell you that. You get 2 SEC schools in there because I mean, if Bama beats Georgia, I just don't see a scenario where they don't make it. But
I agree with Gene.
I mean, I also agree, but I mean, look at if you're comparing losses. I know that's not the way you can do it, but if you're comparing losses, Oklahoma loss or an Alabama loss on a neutral field, like I don't know.
Listen, it is the number. I think it's either number 1 or number 2 in our criteria that conference championships matter. I don't know how you could take a team who has been in the top 6 or 7 all year. Their only loss is to a good Oklahoma team. They don't have a bad loss. If they would have lost to like TCU or something, I think that changes the narrative a little bit. But they didn't. Their losses on a neutral field to an Oklahoma team in a rivalry game.
Yeah.
And it was a great game. It was a close game. They didn't get blown out. They lost by what, 4, 4, something like that?
Yep.
So I just don't see how you keep them out. Now, here's the nightmare scenario for everybody. This is the bad one. And this is the one that I do not trust them to do the right thing. And this is where me personally, and I won't agree with it, I will rail against it. I will rant against it. I'll go nuts on Wednesday, and I'll go nuts next Saturday again. If Florida State wins, we're assuming Washington's already in, and Michigan holds serve tonight. That's the 3. If Alabama beats Georgia, who doesn't get in? Because I agree. I don't have any faith in hell that the people in that room have the balls to sit there and say an SEC team is not getting into this year. And it'll be wild to me that you're going to go, okay, they both have the same record. Texas actually has better metrics.
They have a head-to-head win.
Well, where do you get to that? They both have conference championships at that point. And then you have the ultimate tiebreaker, which if I was a committee member, I'd be like, oh, you know what? I don't have to make a judgment call here. These 2 teams played on the same field and played against each other. Alabama was home and Texas beat them. Texas goes. And I don't think they'll do it. I really don't. I think come tomorrow afternoon, if that's the way this plays out, I absolutely think they will screw Texas. And I think it will be monumentally just an absolute shitty thing to do because of the SEC money that's going to be in that room and the bias. If they do it, I can't even imagine like the things that are going to be said. Like, and I think it would just be awful if they do it.
I mean, shoot, there's talk about Florida State going undefeated and still being left out of the college football playoff. I don't know if you guys heard that.
I don't buy
Wouldn't that be wild, though? Because, like I said, depending on who's quarterback, like how well they play against Louisville.
I get it.
I mean, that would be interesting.
I agree with you, but the reason these other arguments hold more water is because they all have a loss. You can't tell these kids that went 13-0, won the last 2 games without their star quarterback, that they're not getting in. That isn't actually a harder argument for me to understand than it would be to leaving out Texas or an SEC team because they did lose a game. When you lose a game, you do lose a little bit of control of what happens and the way people view or the way they want to seed you. If you go down all that criteria, they check every single box. They went undefeated. They did everything they were supposed to do. You can't not put them in. You can't.
Gene, that doesn't matter, though. It's definitely still getting screwed because Texas and Alabama played each other. If you have the same record, you both have conference championships, and you have a head-to-head, it shouldn't matter who's got the better win, who's got the better loss. Tiebreaker should always be, and they even say it like in the committee bylaws that the head-to-head matchups matter. And that's why they've stayed consistent so far with Texas being ahead of Alabama. Alabama's had some good wins, since Texas has had that loss, and they've been consistent. They still been consistent and not put them ahead of them. So I think it would be absolutely wild for Bama to jump Texas? Like what's the argument? The argument is, hey, we have a better win than you. Okay, hey, we beat you. We're better than you. We beat you on your home field. So how are we not in the playoff?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a committee member, the last thing you want to do is at the end of the year to have to go through Gene's scenario where there isn't a head-to-head game and be like, okay, like, am I
That's
weighing?
different, though.
I agree, but Gene's thinking in that is correct because that is how they would have to do it. If they didn't have the head-to-head game, it is, do you rank the better win better or who has the better loss? And that's subjective. And people look at that stuff differently. That's the nightmare scenario for these people. They don't have that. They literally go down to bullet point number 3, head-to-head, head-to-head games and all that stuff. They played head-to-head. Alabama was home. They dropped the ball. Texas beat them. That has to reign supreme here. If you want people to believe in this and believe in the system and everything else, sorry. This is just for as many breaks as the SEC has gotten over the years in getting into this, and people backdooring themselves sometimes or being seated differently than where they should be. It's the way the cookie crumbles this year. I think at the beginning of the year, I think we all agreed either Michigan or Ohio State were going to run the table. We knew one Big Ten team was going to go in. Me and Cottrell talked about it last night. We've talked about it through the course of the year. I think it became very evident in the middle of the year, to me anyway, that both of us were not getting in. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Washington ran the table. That becomes undeniable. I also think we all thought at some point Florida State was probably going to slip up. They didn't. So if they hold serve again today, they're undefeated. You can't leave any of the 3 of them out. Michigan, Washington, Florida State become locks. If Georgia takes care of business, there's your 4. If not, I can't wait. I can't wait to sit there at noon tomorrow and be like, what are we getting? Like, because it's going to be, it's going to be nuts.
Gene, the thing is that we agree. Well, at least I agree with you. I think if FSU win, Bama beats Georgia, Bama is in over Texas. I agree with you. I'm just saying it's not the right thing to do based off of what the committee tells me that they go off.
Oh, I'm agreeing with both of you, and that's why I started this conversation the way I did. I don't trust those people in the room to do the right thing. They will 100% put Alabama in. I agree. There's no shot. I just don't know how Boo Callahan's going to get on national TV tomorrow and defense it. I just don't.
Alex, what's your take?
Alex spent all his electric money on booze last night after the
Oregon game. It is storming here right now. Like our tree in the front yard's about to blow over. Like a power just went out, so I'm catching back up. Which 2 teams are you guys referring to right now? Sorry,
Texas. In the scenario that Bama beats Georgia, Texas wins the Big 12, and FSU wins.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a tough one. That's a tough one because obviously
who gets in, Texas or Bama for the last spot?
So here's the thing. I honestly do believe the score of the Bama Georgia game will determine that, because yes, Texas. Hold on, Bill. I see you ready to go. Hold on. All right. Yes, Texas has the head-to-head against Bama at Alabama, which is obviously a huge caveat there. However, Alabama, who's one of the hottest teams in the country, obviously last week they had a closer game, but they still able to pull it out. If they're able to beat Georgia by, say, more than 7 points, 2 possessions, I don't think there's a way you can keep Alabama out, even with the fact that Texas beat them. But that's just what I'm thinking. So, I mean, like I said, we're going to have to find out and wait for the judges, wait for the game. I ultimately think Alabama finds a way to get in that scenario if Alabama is able to beat Georgia by more than 7. But if it's less than that, Texas gets in.
Who would you put in?
See, I don't like the score thing either because, like,
That's
I mean,
tough.
then how do you not factor in last week's BS game? They won at Auburn by 3 on a miracle. Let's just be honest.
Yes, they did. But again, good teams find ways to win.
Texas beat the snot out of Bama on their home field.
Agreed. And again, people don't want to talk about it. That game was Texas is in handily control of that game for 90% of it.
And the score doesn't even tell you. It was 32-4.
It doesn't.
But the score does not reflect how that game really was.
It doesn't, because they just ran Jonathan Brooks into the ground in the second half because they had the big lead and they still scored. Like, I don't know how, like, your mission statement is to judge these teams based upon performance, eye test, conference championship, and head-to-head, and we're just going to throw the third one out if it comes down to that. This is all bullshit. Then it's just all BS.
Yep.
Well, this is an argument for why they're expanding the college football playoff to more teams next year. This exact reason.
And again, this is another year where I would love to see it. I would love to see, Ohio State is like an 8 seed, like and like watch. We've seen the different brackets break down. We'll get a different one tomorrow, like what it would look like with a top 12. Like I would love Tulane have to go to like Penn State or somewhere like that and play, or like watch Oregon have to go to Ann Arbor in the middle of December and play a game there in snow. I would love to see it. We all want to see that, and we're finally going to get it. But that doesn't excuse them to make the wrong decision this year. We're still on these rules for this year. If Texas wins and Alabama wins, there's no way you can keep Texas out. There's none. Like the fact that they played head to head is making it easy. Like nobody can bitch if they put Texas in. You can only bitch if you put Alabama in. You only create controversy if you put Alabama in. So if you put Texas in, you just go, they both had, they both look good. They both have a conference championship. These teams played head-to-head. Texas wins. That's what we judge these teams off. It's that simple. Like you're literally making up your own criteria at that point to put Alabama in because an SEC team has to be there. And the SEC wasn't good this year. Just be honest. It's not. LSU had 3 losses. Ole Miss is the second or third best SEC team. Is it still the best football conference top to bottom in the country? Yes. I'm not saying that. But it's not what it normally is. It's not. You don't have LSU at 11-1 and their only loss is Bama. Ole Miss is 10-2. Florida sucked this year. Like they're usually a 10-win team. We've talked at length about Tennessee. They're terrible. Like this isn't a good SEC year. It's just not. Just be honest about it. I know the SEC bias is real, and for the most part, I hate to say it, like we joke about it, but a lot of the times it is because it's real, and but it's also because it's real and it makes sense. They usually have 8 or 9 really good football teams. That's not the case this year. It's just not. Texas A&M stinks this year. Like they're just not good. It's a down year for the SEC. That doesn't mean Georgia's not elite because they are. It doesn't mean Alabama's not good because they are. But it does. Like this isn't a year where like you're arguing like, oh, well, Georgia and Alabama are just head and shoulders above everybody in the country, and they're both sitting there 12-0, and one of them's going to have a loss, and now you're saying we have to cut one of the top 4 teams out of the country. That's not the case this year. It's not. As good as Georgia's look, this is not the same Georgia team as the last 2 years. They're still number 1. They're still very good. This is not a dominant Alabama team. Like, just keep it 100%. Like, you're looking at all these teams, Michigan, Washington, Texas, Ohio State. You play all these teams on a neutral field a bunch of times, you're going to get mixed results. It's not going to be like it was 2 years ago where, you saw what Georgia did to a very good Michigan team. Over the years, you've seen what Alabama's done to very good football teams, just blowing them the hell out. Just hangs 50 on people like it's nobody's business. That's not where we are this year. 2023 is not that. So I think it would be criminal if Texas doesn't get in over Alabama. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, we're getting into some previews then. We got 50 minutes before the game start.
Kickoff is actually 12:12. So if we do go a little long, we're okay. We're still going to try to get you out of here at 12 like we always do. But, we can't.
Or 9 a.m. for you West Coast awesome people.
Alex, you chose to live where you live. And it's it's not our problem.
That's
It's
true.
not my. I'm just kidding.
Touche.
He wouldn't care if Oregon won last night. He'd be like, we can stay on here to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't care.
I wouldn't have gone to sleep. Been wearing the same makeup, the same outfit.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Then we really would have gotten into some shit if Oregon had won, because the scenarios could have been bonkers because Bama wins, Texas wins, then you just got mad chaos.
And I said at the beginning, part of me, listen, I can't pull for you for obvious reasons, because pulling for you is directly going against me at that point. Let's just keep it 100%. Like, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to see me pissed off, but like if I'm not pissed off, that means you're sad. Like that's the world me and you live in. Let's just be honest about it.
That's
right?
a fact.
I didn't want to see Oregon lose. I didn't. For the show's sake, for Alex's sake, I've been friends with Alex for a long time. I wanted Oregon to win, and I think Oregon. I still think to some degree, I think Oregon's the more exciting team to be in the playoff. We're just not going to get that. But that being said, it's it's a totally different dynamic now. But like I said, that took a lot of the intrigue out of it. Because Washington's in now. Like you said, if Oregon wins, they're now another one-loss conference champion. Now it's like we possibly have to shuffle 4 of them for 2 spots. Then it would have been like completely nuts. So Washington winning last night did take a little of the craziness out of it. But that being said, Mountain West, here we go. Boise State versus UNLV. Just gonna say, we play UNLV. We got a bunch of shit for it at the beginning of the year. They're like a 10-2 football team now. Not saying they're great. 9-3. Not saying they're great, but they weren't the cupcake everybody thought they were. But that being said, I believe Boise State's a 3.5 or 2.5 point favorite in this game.
2.5.
2.5. This sneakily could be one of the better games of the day. I think
I'm protesting this game.
All right.
San Jose State should be in this game over UNLV. They were ahead of them in the rankings, beat them last week. I haven't looked into the tiebreaker and why they were in instead of San Jose State yet, but I'm pretty upset by this game. This should have been a Boise State, San Jose State rematch.
I can tell you this. Nobody got more press than San Jose State. Nobody gave San Jose State more press than we did in between Wire to Wire and this show at the beginning of the year. And then they kind of disappointed in the middle of the season. They may have lost me a parlay or two, losing games they shouldn't have. But this is what we got. So this is what we got to preview. We'll look into the tiebreaker stuff later.
They got the same record, and they have the same conference record, and UNLV has a better overall record. So I'm sure that was probably the tiebreaker.
That's probably what it is then. So this game, where is this game?
This game is a home game
Vegas.
for UNLV. This game
it is home?
It's at Allegiant Stadium.
Ah, so it's back in the Roomba. That's where we were last night.
Yep.
Alex
already
quick
fresh.
change out.
Alex likes that place. Just kidding.
Wow. Oh, wow. I'm going to go buy and throw eggs at it.
All right, yes, this is a de facto home game then. So
no, it is a home game. They play their home games at Allegiant Stadium.
Do they really? They have their own stadium?
They do. They do. They pay like it's like a $1.2 million contract per year. They give the Raiders organization or the owners of the stadium for use of the facilities.
Oh, all right. So it's a home game then. All right.
Home.
Uncle Shelly learned something today. Boise State though, still it's 2.5 or 3.5. I'm sorry, one of you guys corrected me. 2.5. All right. Boise State kind of had a weird year. Started out with a lot of hype, kind of went down at the end of the year, started at the end of the year, started playing the way I think a lot of people thought they were going to. I know they've had quarterback issues. UNLV, like I said, I think it was our first game or second game maybe. We played them, beat the hell out of them. They obviously rebounded nicely. I've gone back and forth in this game so many times. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stick with my gut here. I'm gonna go with Boise State. I think how they're playing towards the end of the year, their offense is finally executing on a level, like I said, I think that a lot of people expected all year from them. They've seen the last 4 or 5 weeks really figure everything out. They've been playing more consistent. I think they have the better defense between the two teams. I'm going to go Boise State.
All right. When we look at Boise State's schedule, besides the thrashing that they took against Washington, the opening game of the year, every other loss, the other 4 losses have all been by 1 possession or less. So Boise State has a way of keeping in games that they shouldn't. And also, they also have a habit of kind of playing down to their opponents, which can really hurt you in a spot like this. However, Boise State being the 2.5 point favorite, I think the reason for that is that Boise State does have the number 11 rushing offense in the country, averaging 207 yards per game. They're going to ultimately run the ball down UNLV's throat. And Jaden Maeva, who's the freshman quarterback at UNLV, has had a fantastic year this year. The problem with him is that he's a freshman and he shows his inexperience a lot of the time. He's had multiple games this season with more than 1 interception. he has a habit of throwing one interception and then compounding that with another mistake on on one of the drives after the fact. And so as long as he can kind of keep his cool, keep his calm, keep his cool, and not throw into too much double coverage that Boise State's like to throw out there, UNLV has a shot. But I do think Boise State's going to run the ball down UNLV's throat and cover that 2.5.
Well, I'm on the other side of you guys. I got UNLV here. I think UNLV is going to be able to put up points against this Boise State team. And I just like everything surrounding this game for me feels like it's going to point to a UNLV win. It's a home game for UNLV. Boise State is running out there with an interim head coach. Their head coach from the start of the season is not on the field with them this game. Now, yes, they have found ways to win games these past few weeks here, but I do think that matters. And then for UNLV, Alex, you mentioned it with Maeva. I understand that he does turn the ball over, but every game UNLV finds ways to put points up on the board. So, I mean, they haven't scored less than 30 in a month and a half. So I really feel like UNLV is going to be able to impose their will on the scoreboard against Boise State. I think, Maeva is going to end up being probably the best player in this game, win that MVP award after the game. And I got UNLV winning by like a touchdown or so.
Ooh. See, here's my problem with that. All right, last week UNLV had a home game as well against San Jose State, which I just mentioned. San Jose State won that game 37-31. What was the one caveat of San Jose State's offense that they were really able to exploit UNLV's defense with? And that's their run game. Kyrie Robinson had his best game of the season last week, running 17 times for 168 yards. San Jose State averaged 5.8 yards per carry last week. UNLV's run defense is suspect as all hell. I think Boise State's going to have no problem moving the ball. I'm seeing almost 300 yards rushing from Boise State's offense today.
My one counterpoint to that, and I love that we're getting so into this Mountain West football here. My one counterpoint to that, if you ask me who has the better offense between San Jose and Boise State, I'm rolling with San Jose State. So I do think it's going to be different with Boise State this game.
All right, so we got a little split panel. I love it.
Split panel is always good for the show.
Woo-wee.
Sunbelt.
Let's talk about people that don't deserve to be here.
Yeah, the two teams that are going to win a championship that should be going to James Madison. That's what
I can't wait till Cottrell goes because I'm going to rip him apart. Go ahead first, Cottrell. Let Cottrell go first.
Wow. What?
Wow. Let Cottrell go first.
I feel like he
You'll
knows
find
where
out.
you're going.
You'll find out.
He feels like he knows where you're going. And no matter what he picks, his overall sentiment is the same as mine, and it's 1,000,000% correct. James Madison Dukes should be in this game.
Who beat James Madison, y'all?
Who cares? It'd still be
Appalachian State. Appalachian State beat James Madison.
They're 7-1 in the conference, and they have a better record. Appalachian State.
It don't matter. I'm just saying, if James Madison is not going to get in, the team that beat them, I have no problem them being there.
No, still do, because that's not how this works.
It's not how this works at all.
It's not how any of this
works.
Also,
I know James Madison was told before bumping up at a level, hey, y'all can't play in the conference championship for 3 years. So they should have known what to expect to begin with.
I mean, that doesn't make it right. I understand they knew the rules. Doesn't make it right.
Just put that on the list of
this game.
Put that on the list of the shit NCAA does wrong list. Well, that'll be a whole show in itself.
Game. All right, let them have that.
Yeah, so, after like public pressure out the wazoo. It
wasn't even public pressure. The reason why James Madison is in a bowl game is because not enough teams qualified the 6 wins to be bowl eligible. If you had 4 more teams win one more football game, James Madison would not be playing in the bowl game. So it's not like the NCAA just did the right thing. It was like, hey, James Madison actually earned it, because if you look at the records of other people for the at-large, bids, they qualified there. So the NCAA didn't do the right thing. Don't give them credit for that.
I'm not giving them credit for anything. And not to mention that if you can make the exemption for that, if you're letting them play in a bowl game, then how do you not apply that same logic to the conference championship game? If you're saying at the beginning of the year they're ineligible for both, but you just bend the rules. And why are they bending the rules? Because they're going to let them play in a bowl game. It's another bowl game that then happens and takes place, and the NCAA makes more money. It's a joke. But again, we'll leave that for the NCAA show. Cottrell, you've been called out, so apparently you're previewing this game first, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this game it sets up to be rather interesting. And as much as I personally don't believe Appalachian State should be here, I got them winning the football game. Appalachian
Oh,
State is a
wow.
team that scores, over 30 points a game here. And I fully believe they are going to be able to run the scoreboard up on this Troy team. I do think this will be one of the more exciting games of the day. I got to be in a high scoring one. Troy also, they had a phenomenal year this year. They're 10-2. But at the end of the day, I think Appalachian State, they're going to be able to put up 35 points in this one. And I think that's going to be enough to ultimately capture the Sun Belt title for them.
All right. Well, here I was thinking that you were going to harp on the James Madison thing for a lot longer, which really kind of took the wind out of my sails. So now I'm just kind of floating there in the ocean with no sails. You know
I mean,
what I mean?
how can I harp on it? They're not here. They're not playing. They should be. Everybody knows they should be. I mean, what else can I say?
We've been talking about it for 8 weeks too. So I mean,
I know I wanted more, but I finally have something to throw in his face about James Madison. And you know what? I'm gonna roll with Appalachian State in this game as well. I mean, the surprise fact about Troy is that they are the number 10 scoring defense in the country. Surprisingly, only allowing 16.7 points per game. And they have a 6th-year quarterback named Gunnar Watson, who has had one of the best seasons of his career. 3,100 yards, 26 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He really does a great job of kind of taking care of the ball, not turning it over. And that's one of the reasons why Troy only has 2 losses this season. And then we got, historically, Appalachian State always steps up to the big game. We remember back in the day when they beat Michigan, they were able to beat James Madison undefeated.
Appalachian State to throw that in there.
I was waiting how long that was going to take for this to come out.
Appalachian State always finds a way to win these big games. And they probably have one of the best, actually in this game, I can honestly say these are probably 2 of the better quarterbacks that you have not heard of. Obviously, I just mentioned Gunnar Watson. On the other side of it, though, Appalachian State does have also an amazing quarterback named Joey Aguilar with 3,200 passing yards for him, 33 touchdowns, a little bit more careless with the ball with 9 interceptions, but he's leading the way of the 17th ranked scoring offense in the country, 35 points per game, as Cottrell just mentioned. And so it's going to be a great game. I do ultimately have Appalachian State winning this game, but I'm kind of following Cottrell's footsteps here. The over is 52.5, even though Troy does have an elite defense. Appalachian State's been able to score on everybody this season, and I expect that over to hit pretty hard on that 52.5.
The other thing with Troy, too, before you go, Bill, the other thing with Troy is that if you look through their schedule, schedule's pretty light. Obviously, they got to play who's in their conference, but 2 tough games they had. They lost both of them. Obviously, didn't expect them to beat Kansas State, but then them losing a tight game to James Madison, and that's earlier on in the season before James Madison really had that public exposure and love. But losing that game as well, I mean, I think to me that said something as well.
I mean, I guess you could say that, but at the same time, yeah, they do. They have a better win than Appalachian State does. I mean, it's listen.
No, they don't.
James, did you watch the Appalachian State James Madison game?
Absolutely. James Madison should have won the football game.
Exactly. It's BS. I'm not.
That was a fumble on the goal line. Damn it.
It was. Yeah,
fumble.
No, it was not.
Listen, here we go. We already talked about their defense, all that. Here's what I'm going to say. Alex beat me to the punch because he woke up this morning and chose violence. And that's fine. It's understandable. Your team lost last night. You're grasping at straws. I understand. It's the first – you're going through the first level of recovery. And it's okay.
Been 12 hours, Bill.
It's
12 hours.
You're still bleeding. I understand. You're still bleeding out. I understand. Still touch and go. This is not your Appalachian State team that beat Michigan, though. I'm going to tell you that. This is not even as strong as the team they've had the last couple of years. They're relying on the run more so now than they ever have before. I like this Troy team. I'm going to take Troy. Troy is in my pick'em, so a little foreshadowing there. But, dude, the quarterback's name is Gunnar. You can't pick against that. That's like having like a pitcher in baseball named Ace or something like that. Dude's a stud. He's the best year of his career. Doesn't throw interceptions. Doesn't make mistakes. Troy is well balanced, and like I said, I think they have the better defense. I think Appalachian State has to slow this game down to win it, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I like Troy. I think Troy wins the Sun Belt Conference Championship. If they were smart, they would put it in a car and drive it down the road and give it to James Madison because that's where it belongs. But we're not going to get that. But I would like the Troy Trojans. Again, I just think they're a better football team. I think they have the better defense, and I think they have a more dynamic offense. So I will go with Gunnar Watson and company.
He does have a badass name.
Maction. This is Cottrell's backyard.
On Wheelhouse, baby.
Wheelhouse. Not Kent State so much this year, but
worst team in FBS.
You got Northern Miami Beach, Miami of Ohio, at the Toledo. What are the Toledo? What are they?
They're the Rockets.
They have the best, one of the best mascots in college football, honestly.
Why did I want to say the Hens?
I don't know why. They are the Rockets.
Who are the Mudheads? Do you have a baseball? Is there a baseball team, the Mudheads?
Mud.
I think there's a minor.
Are you thinking of Waterboy Ricky Bobby and the Mud Dogs?
No. Does Toledo? Cottrell, does Toledo have a minor league baseball team?
I don't believe so. The minor league team for like the Indians is in Youngstown, and then they got one in Columbus.
The Guardians.
God, you guys are both idiots. I was right. The minor league idiots. The minor league team in Toledo is the Mudhead. So that's what the Rockets are.
Who are they? They're not our affiliate. Who are they?
Detroit.
Oh, see, that's why I don't give a damn about Detroit's minor league.
Well, I mean,
you should know your local sports. All right.
Hey, it's not, again, Toledo's might as well be Michigan for all I care. So,
wow.
All right, true that.
All right, so Miami, Ohio, 10-2, Toledo, 11-1. This game for me, I've been a big Toledo guy all year. This game solely rests on the shoulders of DeQuan Finn. I think if he shows up and has a DeQuan Finn type game, I think Toledo's going to win. I think Miami, Ohio definitely has the better defense. I think they have more of like a lethargic offense, though. Kind of more based on kind of like a normal MAC team. Like they run the ball, they throw the ball when they have to. I don't call them plodding because they're not plodding. They're a good football team. I've actually watched them play twice this year. They have some athletes at the skill positions. DeQuan Finn has been banged up at certain points the last 2 years. They lost their first game of the year and they haven't lost since.
And they shouldn't have lost that one.
And they shouldn't have. You're 100% right. But, Brett Gabbert, I think is capable of pulling this game off for Miami. He's their quarterback. But again, like I said, I think this game solely rests on the shoulders of DeQuan Finn. I think if he shows up and plays well, he has that offense humming. They've been on fire the last 6 weeks, just pummeling people in the MAC. And if you know anything about the MAC, they play on Tuesday nights. They do weird things, but there's always games every year where a Kent State this year would beat like a Miami, Ohio. It really hasn't been. No, but am I wrong though? There's always like one or two like just super head scratching upsets in the MAC every year. We really haven't had ones. Yeah, you really haven't had that this year. I mean, these two teams have kind of been at the top of their divisions. The MAC is a 2-division conference, and they've been up there all year, and they've kind of held serve and got here. So I'm going to go with Toledo on this one. Like I said, I will back DeQuan Finn. He's one of the better quarterbacks that nobody talks about in the country. Very dynamic. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. Give me the Toledo Rocket Mudhens today.
I'm rolling with Toledo as well. I think Toledo's a better football team. These teams played earlier this year, and Toledo was pretty dominant. I know the score says 21-17, but yet you have to realize that in that game, Toledo got up big, and they really let their foot off the gas in that one. It was 21-3. Miami scored some touchdowns, and I want to say it was early in the third quarter, if I remember correctly.
Did they fumble like the 2 or something too?
Yeah,
going in, they did something like that.
There was a turnover in that game. I don't remember exactly where it was at, but Toledo's a better football team. Toledo lost their first game of the year to Illinois. It was a very tight game, and they shouldn't have lost that one. And they pretty much ran through the MAC after that. Now, Miami does have a good football team, but Bill brought up a great point for me. I think DeQuan Finn is the best player in this game, and he's going to get Toledo to 12-1 being MAC champions. The funny thing is with the MAC, typically whoever you think is the better team, yes, they go out to the championship game. They play their championship games in Detroit, and they usually go out there and win. So I think Toledo's a better team. So I'm rolling with Toledo to take care of business.
Mudheads, baby.
So the first game, obviously Toledo won 21-17 on October 21st. in this, because I have to kind of looking over that game, this spread of 7 is really kind of interesting to me, especially because defensively at the first matchup, Miami was able to make a really good adjustment at halftime and actually shut out Toledo in the second half. They outscored Toledo 14-0 in that second half. You guys were talking about how the game kind of got out of hand early. No way in college football is a game over at halftime. So you telling me they're taking their foot off the pedal after halftime, I'm calling BS on that. I'm thinking that Miami actually made some good adjustments defensively at halftime and was able to actually slow down that Toledo offense. If Miami can eliminate the turnovers they had in game 1, I think they have a great chance to win. And I like the under here at the 43.5. I think this is going to be a very low scoring game, even possibly lower scoring than the first route, which had 38 points. Toledo was 4 for 15 on third downs. Both teams averaged less than 4 yards per carry and less than 6 yards per pass. The offenses were not clicking, and I don't see them clicking in this game either, even though they have faced each other. It really was a chess match the first time around. And with Toledo being a run-heavy offense, averaging 211 rush yards per game, I think that's also going to shorten the amount of possessions for both teams. And Miami's defense is 8th in points allowed with 16.3. So everything about this matchup spells a ball control game. It spells an under game. And I think that Miami of Ohio, having lost the first match, we all know how hard it is to beat a team twice, despite what Washington was able to do last night. Bill, I'm taking your burn before you say it. And I think that Miami, Ohio ends up winning this game right behind the flex of their defense. And I think it's going to be another close game, but I think it's going to be like a 17-14 Miami of Ohio win.
All right. Doubt the mudhead at your own expense. SMU Tulane, the old American Athletic Conference Championship game. This game will be played at Tulane, if I'm correct. This is a home field conference type thing. Anybody? So. Bueller, I believe so.
Yeah, they're at home.
Yeah, so Michael Pratt, we've talked about him a couple times this year, starting quarterback for Tulane, had a hell of a season. Tulane, I will say this, Tulane was one of the group of 5 that people were on very early this year. They started the season right outside the rankings, and they move up a spot in the rankings for like every 4 wins they get, which is ridiculous, but it's neither here nor there. But Tulane has had that hype all year and lived up to it, if we're being honest. Like I said, Michael Pratt, just got named Conference Player of the Year. He's their quarterback. Everything starts with him. SMU is a team started out a little shaky this year, and then again, one of those things, they just flipped a switch and went on a run. SMU, believe it or not, as much as I just talked about Michael Pratt, SMU probably has the more dangerous offense skill position-wise. I know they're going to be playing with their backup quarterback, which makes this a little bit more shaky. And it's crazy to think that's after they lost their starting quarterback for 2 years ago, Mordecai, who transferred to Wisconsin this year. This SMU team offensively is loaded. They can run, they're fast. Tulane's got a pretty good defense. I am picking this game, so I'm not going to say which way I'm going right now, but I think this is going to be a very entertaining football game. Obviously Tulane will be home. It's a home game for them. This is truly a coin flip game for me.
Okay. Good, Trey, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll go next here. I got Tulane. I'm keep it simple. Got Tulane. Michael Pratt, I think, is going to be the best player in this football game. He's played phenomenal pretty much the entire season. You did see that, obviously, earlier in the year, they lost to Ole Miss. Don't believe Michael Pratt actually ended up playing in that game. I think that was when he was going through his injury issues. But Tulane has been a pretty much balanced attack, all season. They have a great rushing attack. Their running back, Mekhi Hughes, he's been able to have a lot of success on the ground. And then with Michael Pratt, he's not by no means is he going to be the one to, take off and have like quarterback design runs, but he can run the football effectively in spots. So I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I got Tulane taking care of business at home. They've been undefeated so far throughout the conference. I think that holds true. And I got Tulane ultimately coming out and winning the AAC championship.
I mean, this is one of the games I'm most excited for today. SMU has won me a lot of money this year based on them covering the spread and overs. And so I'm going to keep rolling with SMU right now. SMU's only losses are to Oklahoma and TCU. Both of those games are on the road in both those losses. So going into Tulane, it does spell a bit of a sour point for me with my argument. SMU has a very high flying offense, averaging 291 pass yards per game, good for 16th in the country. And if you think you can just drop another defensive back in the secondary to kind of eliminate those big pass plays, they're also averaging 180 yards on the ground. They have a very balanced, high explosive offense that can attack you from the air or the ground. And I'm very excited to see how they kind of attack this Tulane team, who defensively they're on the top 20, but their offense is very, very lackluster and very average if you look at the numbers. So I don't think that Tulane's going to be able to keep up with SMU's offense today. I'm going to keep rolling with what I've been choosing with SMU all season. And that's for them to win the game, cover the 3.5, and the over of 47.5 seems extremely low today. I expect this total score of this game to be up in the upper 50s. It all starts with Preston Stones, 3,200 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's only been sacked 4 times in the last 5 games, and he's only thrown 1 interception in those 5. So he's really taking care of the ball well. The ground game is all running on all cylinders right now. And here's a little fun fact. SMU averaging 41 points per game this season. Tulane hasn't scored over 37 once all season long. That's kind of all you need to know right here.
Well, Preston Stone's leg isn't attached together, so he won't be a factor in this game.
I actually totally forgot that he wasn't playing today.
Doesn't
matter. SMU.
They won't score 40 without Preston. I'll say that.
But
I do think the over, though. I do think the over.
Oh, Kevin Jennings is their backup. Okay, cool. Kevin Jennings. There we go. Yeah, I mean, he's got very limited use this season. He's only thrown the ball about 32 times all season long. But in his small sample size, he actually does look quite nice. Only 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I expect him to be able to do some work. Like I said, SMU's offensive weapons, especially in the ground game, is really able to hold up any lackluster effort in the passing game. And I think that they're still going to be able to score with 35 points today. I still think the over is going to hit, and I still am liking SMU today.
I'm with you on the over. That's for sure.
All right, we're getting into the Power 5 stuff now. We got 4 games to go. Pick them, and we will get you guys on your way for a hell of a day of college football. So this is the first game that kicks today for Power 5. Oklahoma State, number 18, Cowboys against the Longhorns of Texas, ranked number 7. This is down in Dallas. This is at AT&T Stadium. This is at Jerry World. Hosting it since it's been open, I believe. Going to be, I would say it's probably going to be more of a Texas crowd. I don't know how many Oklahoma State fans are going to travel. I'm sure a bunch will, but this game to me, listen, I've not been high on Oklahoma State all year. I think they play really well in spurts. I don't think they have the game to put together to beat Texas in 60 minutes. I think Texas is just a better football team. Minus not having Brooks in running back position, they're healthy. Quinn Ewers has looked really good the last 2 weeks. I like Texas here. I like Texas big. I also think kind of what we talked about earlier. I think Sarkisian knows he's got to score kind of style points on this one. So he does not want this to be a 30-27 game come the end of the game. If he can win this game by 3 touchdowns plus or run it up or do whatever he's got to do, I think he's got to take every chance in the world to do it. That being said, again, I think Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy and company, I think they have a big game. I think Texas defense has enough to definitely frustrate Oklahoma State and slow them down. They're very inconsistent. They really had no business beating BYU last week to even get into this game. I was kind of happy about that because I thought we were going to get a Texas-Oklahoma rematch. But yet here we are. So you got to give them credit for getting here. I just don't think they have the firepower or the consistency or the efficiency to play 60 minutes at a level that Texas can. I just don't think they have that extra gear like Texas does. I like Texas big. Texas makes their statement again in the college football playoff. I'll say Texas 42, Oklahoma State 21.
Oh, you got a blowout on your hands. I will say, obviously, I'm rooting for Oklahoma State here. Gives us any inkling of hope. The Big 12 championship game the past few years, the underdog has won the last 3 years. So that gives me hope because these big dogs, they don't perform when the pressure's on them. But with that said, I am
who were the matchups the last 3 years though?
You had TCU versus last year. TCU lost to Kansas State.
Yep.
Year before that, Baylor had beat Oklahoma State. In Oklahoma State, I want to say like they were in a win and in scenario.
Yep, I remember that game.
In the year before, I don't remember the matchup off the top of my head, but I remember seeing the underdog won that game.
All right.
But regardless, I got Texas in this one. I actually think that Oklahoma State covers the spread, though. I think with Oklahoma State, the key for them is going to be to get Ollie Gordon going. He is going to be the reason if Oklahoma State even has a chance. He's going to be the reason. You're going to need at least 100-plus yards for him. Last week against BYU, he put up 5 touchdowns, which is absolutely impressive. And he's had a phenomenal year pretty much all year. I haven't been high on Oklahoma State either. I don't think they are that good of a football team. If it were up to me, I understand why they're ranked number 18 now. They do have, a couple of good wins on their resume. If it were up to me, they wouldn't be ranked. If I was doing my top 25, I would have Oklahoma State not ranked here. But on the flip side of things for Texas, I think they're going to have a lot of success in the air. Obviously, Mitchell, Worthy, those guys are incredible. Quinn Ewers is going to take care of business. Losing Brooks is a big deal, though. He had been their bell cow pretty much all season, and not having him, I do think that will hurt. I think Texas will be a little bit more limited, and they had a couple games without him so far, but I think Texas will be a little bit more limited in short yardage situations where before it was a lot of certainty with, hey, give the ball to Brooks, he can go out there, get you 3-4 yards if you need it. I think it's going to be a little bit different this game. Oklahoma State has the running attack to control the clock. If they can find ways to limit Texas possessions and not give up the big play, I think they're going to have a shot to keep this game close. So I like Texas to win. I see it being a 31-21 kind of game, though.
It's fair.
Yeah, I mean, here's the main thing that really drew my attention. Oklahoma State has allowed 30 points or more in 3 of their last 4 games. I'm not really able to stop a lot of people. BYU was able to score God knows how many points against them last week, and Oklahoma State was able to come back and win that game. The player to watch, just like you already mentioned, Cottrell, Ollie Gordon. Oklahoma State uses him like the Panthers used, Christian McCaffrey. Pass game, run game, he's kind of their do-it-all back. And if they want to win, their best chance of winning is getting Ollie Gordon going early. Texas, on the other hand, what they need to do is they need to load the box and eliminate Ollie Gordon immediately by jumping up by 2 scores or more. UCF was able to eliminate Ollie to 3 carries for 6 yards when they beat Oklahoma State 41-3 a few weeks back, and they did that by jumping out early, causing turnovers, causing chaos in the backfield, and basically making Alan Bowman throw the ball, which is another thing Texas wants to do, because Alan Bowman over here has thrown 6 interceptions in his last 3 games. So you don't want Texas to get up more than, I'd say, probably 10 points in this game, because Oklahoma State has to throw to keep up. It's going to be a long day for them. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think it's a 1-possession game at halftime before Texas ultimately takes over. Quinn Ewers does his thing. Xavier Worthy goes off for over 100 receiving yards, and I think he's got two touchdown catches. Him and Quinn Ewers have not been on the same page lately. I think that fixes itself today, and Texas takes care of business. They know what's at stake.
Yeah, I mean, you guys hit on all the major things. Obviously, Ollie Gordon is their all everything for Oklahoma State. Bowman actually has more interceptions and touchdowns for the year. Transferred in this year, actually from Michigan. But it is Oklahoma State's a little bit one-dimensional for me, whereas Texas can play very balanced if they have to. I think over the course of 60 minutes, I think Oklahoma State plays very well for spurts, for quarters of a game, and then they disappear. Can't do that against an elite team like Texas. Texas is going to play a full 60 minutes. Like I said, I just like Texas big here. I think if Texas could put the throttle down early and run that way, I think they're going to, because I think, I think out of safety precautions, I think Sark wants to score style points today if he can. So I just think Texas has too much talent. I like Texas big.
All right.
Alrighty.
This is the key to the chaos, if we're being honest here.
Key to chaos.
Key to chaos. Louisville Cardinals. I'm going to say they got caught in a trap game last week. Looking ahead, I don't know what, but they put a dud out last week. Florida State Seminoles. Been a top 4 or 5 team all year. Lost their quarterback, I think, 3 weeks ago? This will be the third
Zach,
game.
I'm all for that, man. The more chaos, the better.
Same. Give me the chaos.
Of course you want that, control, Jesus. I want so much chaos. Oregon gets in, damn it.
That's teams would have to die. Cottrell needs like picky chaos though. Like Cottrell needs Michigan to win today. Like Michigan
Facts.
losing hurts Cottrell.
Facts. That's a fact.
So Cottrell needs very, very precise, controlled chaos in certain areas.
I need 2 favorites to win. We need Georgia to take care of business. We need Michigan to take care of business. And then we just need Louisville to beat a hobbled Florida State team with their backup, maybe third string. And then beat Oklahoma State to just keep the pattern of the underdogs winning the Big 12 championship. So you got 2 very likely things, I think, in Georgia and Michigan winning. And then you got, Louisville, Oklahoma State. I think they're going to be the ones to watch out for.
So here's the mystery surrounding this game. We all know Jordan Travis is not going to play. The mystery now becomes his backup, who Tate Rodemaker, he's been there for 4 years. He knows the offense. He's been there since Mike Norville got there. Obviously not a lot of playing time, but he has played, and then obviously he's played the last 2 weeks. In the Florida game, he apparently suffered a concussion. He got cleared to go back in. Obviously they put him back in because he was cleared to go back in. Apparently after the game, he had more effects. They put him back through concussion protocol. He didn't pass. That's a whole different conversation for a different day. And I'm not saying it lightly. I'm just saying we're going to preview the game for what it is. From everything I've read throughout the course of the week, he's passed most of the things he needs to pass. They're going to run him through stuff today. If he passes, he's going to play. I think he's going to play. That's just my personal thing. I don't know anything unless something's come out since we've been on the air that I haven't seen.
They just interviewed his dad an hour ago, and his dad was on Sirius XM and said his son's feeling a lot better, but he's still going through the protocol right now, and the chances of him playing tonight is really at 50-50.
Yeah, so it's going to be what it's going to be like. The last thing you have to do is they have to get you have to go through a pretty strenuous warm-up thing. You have to get the body like pretty much operating at, high beat, heart rate per minute. You got to get the body all the way up to that stress level to where these kids play at, and then see how his body reacts, takes a test. If he passes there, he's going to play. If not, they're not going to play him. So that is the intrigue of the game. I believe if he plays and he's okay, which I think he would be at this point, I think they have enough to get it done. I think Louisville had the stinker last week, which really kind of, I hate to say it, kind of blew their season up. They were still on the outside looking in, but if you were a 9th-ranked, one-loss team and you win the ACC, you probably jump up to, I don't know, at least 6 or 7, or you're at least in the discussion. I don't think anybody ultimately would have put them in. But Louisville lost last week, bad loss. And now, they're playing for a trophy. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being the ACC champ. But that's really what they're playing for at this point. Florida State's playing for their lives. They win. I don't care what you say. In my opinion, if they win, they're in. Their defense stepped up. I will be honest, the beginning of that Florida game last week, I'm like, I was feeling bad for them because I was just like, That's the reaction you get from again, we talk about it all the time. These are kids. A lot of these kids are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids dealing with emotional, loss like that and watching your leader go down in a really bad injury, if we're being honest. You don't know how these kids are going to respond all the time. And I thought the Florida game, at the beginning of that game, had the looks of Florida might come out and steamroll these guys, and this just might be it. They rebounded very nicely, played a really good second half. He got more comfortable, started making throws, and they came back and won the game. You got to give him credit. How that leads into today, I don't know. Again, I don't think this game kicks off at 4, I believe. I don't think you're going to know
8.
before. Is it 8?
Yeah, game's a late game. It's a late game.
So this is late with Michigan. Who's the? Oh, so is the Georgia game, Alabama game at 4?
That is at 4.
I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the afternoon game. Okay, so this kicks off the same time as Michigan Iowa. Then, if you're a Florida State fan, that's probably a good thing. Gives you 4 more hours to try to get him ready. You're not going to know probably until 7 or 7:15 if he's playing. So if you're betting this game, I would tell you to wait. With that being said, how do you guys think this plays out? Obviously, I know what Cottrell wants to happen. What do you think is going to happen, though? How do you think the game plays out?
Yeah, so I'll keep it simple here. I got Louisville winning, and I'm not wavering there. I think with Louisville, they did get caught looking ahead, and unfortunately for them, they weren't in the same boat as Alabama or even Washington to be on the right side of things. And I think, though, the one thing that really does matter for this Louisville team is that they have their best players are seniors this year. Jack Plummer, this is going to be his last chance to get an ACC championship game. Jamari Thrash, technically he's a junior, but he's been in college for 5 years now. So maybe this is time. This is going to be maybe this is the last game for him at Louisville, depending on how the bowl game, stuff gets situated. Jawar Jordan, same thing. This is his 5th year in college as well. Maybe he's ready to go to the NFL. So I do think with Louisville having the leadership that they have, we will see Louisville go out there and win this football game. I don't care who's at quarterback. Florida State really showed me that, without Jordan Travis, they're just a completely different ball game. They have all the weapons. They have the horses to ultimately try and win this football game. But if you can't give them the ball, it's going to be tough to do. Florida should have won the game last week. Don't know what happened in that second half, but ultimately I got Louisville winning this football game.
All right. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of like we were just talking about, like, who plays quarterback for Florida State today? Is it Brock Glenn? Is it Tate Rodemaker? Does it really even matter? I'm going to pick this game, so I'm not going to give too much away. But really, the main focus point of this game for Florida State is, can the defense stop the Triple J attack? Jack Plummer, Jawar Jordan, and Jamari Thrash. The Triple J's for Louisville have been absolutely dominant this year, scoring over 30 points in 4 straight. Florida State has a good defense, but I've seen what Louisville has done against good defenses. Beating Duke 23-0. Obviously, Riley Leonard left that game earlier, in the third quarter with an injury that game, and then they also beat Notre Dame 33-20, put up 33 points against a pretty damn good Notre Dame secondary and Notre Dame defense. So we see what Louisville can do against one of those top defenses in the country. People forget that Louisville has the number 2 defense in the ACC, only allowing less than 315 yards per game. What Florida State's going to do today is they're going to rely heavily on Trey Benson. The problem with that is that besides Trey's 200-yard game versus Virginia Tech, he hasn't gone over 100 yards once this season besides that game. So they're going to rely on him heavily in this game, because especially with the inexperienced quarterbacks. Last week, he carried the ball 26 times, I believe it was, and that's the most he's carried the ball this season. I expect that similar workload, but I do expect Louisville to be able to take away that run game, and I do expect Florida State to have to beat them through the air. Like I said, I'm picking this game, so I'm not going to give away too much, but I think this is going to be honestly a defensive battle, and the pick that I will give you right now is that under 46.5 is really grabbing my attention.
All right. I'm gonna go on record. I think Florida State pulls it off somehow. I don't know why, who, how, when. I think Louisville is not playing as great as they were, even 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think Florida State just finds a way. I really do. For those kids, I just think they figure it out. Big Ten Championship tonight, Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Field, Iowa Hawkeyes 16th. That's a joke. Where's Michigan number 2? I'm going to be very brief on this. I know Alex probably is going to try to make me mad, or try to counterpoint because he wants me to join the sad canoe with him and Cottrell, but it's not going to happen.
It's going to happen.
I'm not sad. Okay, I'm hopeful. I was sad last week. Now I'm hopeful.
I'm going to put it to you this way. Michigan's defense is going to dominate Iowa's offense. Let's just get that out of the way. All right. I don't know if you need to see how little faith somebody has in an offense on a team. Iowa's official over-under for points in the first half is a half a point. That's not a joke. That's not a joke. Vegas is not expecting them to score in the first half.
Cash that over, baby.
We'll see. I don't know if Will Johnson's going to play. I don't think it matters if they're smart. I heard he's a little bit banged up than they're leading on. I would sit him because it doesn't matter. I'll put it to you this way. Eric All, who is a Michigan transfer, he transferred to Iowa with Cade McNamara, who is also not playing. Eric All is Iowa's leading receiver with 399 yards receiving, and he has not played since October 14th. We're in December.
$299, Bill. It's
That
even
was
lower.
$299, even better. That's 6 weeks ago, and he's still their leading wide receiver for yardage for this year. Michigan's going to dominate. I can see this be a low-scoring first quarter. I think Sharon Moore, once he figures out what Iowa really wants to do, I actually think JJ has a big game tonight because I think they're going to throw to soften up that team. And then I think Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are going to go to work. I like Michigan big. I don't think this game is close. I think as long as Michigan gets off the bus and shows up, I think they win. This is the least intriguing game of the night, and I'm okay with it being that way. I almost had a heart attack in the Ohio State game. Ticker needs a rest for this week, so I like Michigan big, and they're just better in every facet of the game. I know Iowa's a good defense, but I just don't think this game is close, and I'll just leave it at that.
And I'll go next here because I'm just going to echo everything that Bill said. I don't think this game is particularly close. I got Michigan. I got them in a parlay actually. I got them on the alt spread at 24.5. I don't think this game is close because Iowa can't score. They weren't able to score against the Penn State defense that isn't better than Michigan's. And so with their backup quarterback with no real weapons here, what am I expecting to see? I think Michigan will be able to put up 30 points in this one. And the thing why I'm so confident in Michigan winning by such a high number is that obviously they know if they win, they're going to the playoff. I think Michigan tries to get up early so that maybe that whole fourth quarter they can rest those guys and make sure they leave this game 100% healthy. So I like Michigan to dominate in this one. I don't know what the over-under is at, but to be honest, I'd be very comfortable with the under because I really think Michigan is going to be the only team that scores. And if Iowa does score, it's only going to be 3 points.
All right. Now what everybody came here for, the unbiased opinion of the man. All right. This is why I'm here on the show to give you guys insight.
I'm not biased.
Look, y'all, I get that Iowa's offense is terrible. I get it. Okay. I absolutely get it. They're 104th in rushing yards and 130th in passing. Absolutely abysmal. But that's not going to bring home the bacon. But here's what Iowa does do. And here's what they are very good at. And that's defense. And what is the famous saying? Defense wins championships. Okay, yes, Michigan's got the number 1 ranked defense in the country. All this hype. But guess what? Michigan's offense is actually very Magoo. All right. They're high ranked in Big Ten rankings. However, if you look comparatively, let me talk. Look comparatively, they're 64th in passing in the country, 53rd in rushing. Okay. What was it? J.J. McCarthy hasn't thrown for over 150 yards in 3 straight games. Yes, Jim Harbaugh is back on the sideline. Play call is going to be a little bit different today. However, I don't see J.J. McCarthy having a big game against this Iowa secondary. Iowa needs to force some short fields force some turnovers in order to get on the scoreboard. I believe that will be tough. However, if they can cause short fields and have a pretty damn decent kick return game that can really get them in good starting positions, you're laughing all you want. They had that one mistake with the fair catch, which I'm still debating was not a fair catch call. They should be a one-loss team. Okay, Brian Ferentz has 2 games left on his contract. He's gone. He's fired. This game right now is going to be his resume for his next job. So if he has any offensive caveats, any trick plays, any double reverses, it's coming out today. Iowa's got nothing to lose. Bill, you're laughing, but guess what?
I just want your score prediction. That's what I want.
Just hold on a second. Jeez. You know what, Nick? I am a bit delusional, but my Ducks lost last night. I'm on no sleep, so give me a break here. I had a deep dive to find these numbers, but here we go. Iowa, honestly, I really like their defense today. I do think that the over is going to hit that 35. I do like the over because I do think Iowa is going to be able to get some short field attempts. I think Iowa is going to be able to Contrell, get that face off the screen, bro. It's hurting my soul. Look, we play these games for a reason, okay? They're 22-point underdogs. Why even play the game if this game's over? It's not. We're playing this game because Iowa does have a chance. Contractually, they have to. Honestly, I just wish this game had Cade McNamara playing. This game, I think, would have a lot more. Would be a lot closer of a spread. I do like the over in this game. I am picking this game, so I'm not going to say too much. But I do think Iowa's going to give the ball to LaShawn Williams over 20 carries today. They got to create turnovers. They got to shorten the field. And, every second play, excuse me, I can't talk today. I'm so hype. He's trash. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. But I do think that Iowa is going to cover that 22 points today. I won't say my score until later, but I'm taking the over.
So you're taking the over. You were giving a score prediction for this game before we get off there.
Fine. Okay, fine. Iowa 25. Yes, because his goal this year was to score 25 points. I think today he's able to do it. And I think Michigan scores 21 points against the Iowa defense. Iowa eliminates Michigan from the college football playoff 25-21. Already put money on it.
Iowa hasn't scored more than 25 points in 2 months. So
no, they haven't scored 25 points once this. They've only scored 25 points once this season.
Twice.
I just love that you actually had the gall to go. Iowa's offense is trash. Defense wins championships, but I know Michigan has the best defense in the country, and then still proceed to go pick Iowa. Like, that's wild to me.
So the best defense in the country against the worst passing offense.
Iowa's defense is going to be able to cause short field turnovers. Okay, I think they are going to have a lot of success. I think we're going to see things today that Iowa hasn't shown all season long. Literally, Brian Ferentz has nothing to live for except for his next job. So expect some crazy stuff to come out of Iowa's offense today.
Nick, he's off his rocker, bro. I don't know.
Alex, if you would have said Iowa wins like 13-10, I'd have been like, okay, maybe.
This is a setup, just like that Vegas setup yesterday with Oregon as 9.5-point favorites. This is a setup. Okay, 22 points in a conference championship game is ridiculous. Penn State beat Iowa 31-0 on like week 3. This is not the same team that they played in week 3. Different quarterback, different offense, different offensive game plans. And defensively, there's a lot on tape. And you don't think Iowa's going to be getting some help preparing for Michigan this game? Cade McNamara is on the sideline. He's going to have Iowa well prepared for what Michigan's mindset's going into this game.
Cade McNamara stuff, dude, is just wild.
He's coming back next year. I'm excited for it.
The kids are crying for 2 months.
You have to realize that the Big Ten has finally come to their senses. You say, Iowa, deserves to be here. They should only have one loss. Well, this is the last year where you're not going to see the 2 best teams in the Big Ten play each other. So they finally got it right. And, we get to see another blowout here with Iowa. You saw it 2 years ago when Michigan put up 110 and Iowa scored 3. This Iowa team is no different. I get it. I want Bill to join our misery boat too. But Iowa is the team that we're doing with.
Hey, man, look, we play these games for a reason, okay? I'm rocking the Hawkeye shirt today. I'm cheering Iowa on all the way. And, Bill, if and when you lose today, I expect some respect.
Okay, and when this game goes the way that everybody thinks it's going to, you're going to get
– And that's why this is a trap game 100%. Everyone thinks one thing, it's going to happen another.
All right.
Wait.
I guess you left out the point when you're going over our offensive stats that they're in the 50s and the 60s. You left out the point that none of our starters played in the fourth quarter till the Penn State game in week 10. Sorry, you left that point out. Anyway, let's go.
Last three games, he still hasn't thrown for over 150 yards, and you're going to have to throw the ball today.
Doesn't have to, and they're not going to have to today either.
Okay.
That being said, we go to the game. The caveat, the most exciting, probably most important game of the day, if we're being honest. Number 8, Alabama Crimson Tide. Number 1, Georgia Bulldogs. Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta. It's going to be a 50-50 game. I know it's close to Georgia, but Atlanta or Alabama travels well. I'm picking this game. I feel strongly about this game. I'm gonna, for the lack of saving time here, I'm going to just bow out of this, and I'll do my preview when we do pick them here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, status of Jason McClellan will make a huge impact today. If he's going to start. Have we heard anything about if he's going to?
Out.
He's out. Okay, thank you, Trell. Appreciate that. I didn't see anything this morning. Bowers was out last week. He had a bit of soreness last week, so the extra rest will likely have him ready at 100%. Lad McConkey, I believe, is still a game time decision. If Lad McConkey does not play today, that kind of eliminates Georgia's potency. With Alabama able to target, Brock Bowers on the offensive side. Jalen Milroe, who has 439 rushing and 12 touchdowns this season, another 2,500 yards passing. He's really coming to his own as a playmaker. And, normally I would, if Oregon had won yesterday, I'd be feeling a different way about this. But now that I have no, horse in the game, essentially, I'm really able to look at this game truly unbiased. And I really like the way Alabama is playing lately. Obviously, last week's win against Auburn was a much closer game than we anticipated. However, Alabama was able to pull out that win. That's a hell of a momentum shift going into this week versus Georgia. Alabama truly has nothing to lose. I think they're going to leave it all on the table. Nick Saban, he's gonna do his best to out coach Kirby Smart today, and I think he's going to be able to do so. Jalen Milroe, I think, is going to win MVP, and I have Alabama upsetting Georgia by 3 points in this game.
So I like a lot of what Alex said. I'm rooting for Georgia. Georgia is going to be our meal ticket, one of our meal tickets to potentially get back into the playoff. But I really think this Bama team is a bad matchup for what Georgia has. Jalen Milroe, if Bama wins this game, it's going to be on the shoulders of Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe is going to have 100 yards rushing. And, I've said it all year with Georgia. The way to beat them is to have a dual threat quarterback that can run and really put their defense in a bind. And Jalen Milroe is the kind of guy that can do that. Now, on the flip side of things against Alabama, the way to beat them is by exploiting the deep ball. If you can attack vertical on them, yes, they have great players in the secondary with Caleb Downs and Kool-Aid McKinstry, but they are susceptible to giving up, the big time pass plays. So I think if with Brock Bowers being able to go up the seam, and Ladd is going to give it a go today, and I do think he will be productive in this game. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game, but at the end of the day, in these kind of games, I trust Nick Saban a little bit more. And I think he saw that tape against Auburn. Both these teams struggled against Auburn, but for me, the more telling game was the way that Georgia looked against stopping that read option and the quarterback design run plays that Auburn had. I think Nick Saban's going to go to that tree, and you're going to see a lot of Jalen Milroe picking his spots. This is going to be the toughest game of Carson Beck's career so far, and I think he's going to show. I think he turns the ball over a couple times. He hasn't had any turnover issues all season. I think this is where it changes. They get pressure on him. He turns the ball over in a spot that you're not used to seeing. And I got Bama winning this football game, although I really am rooting for Georgia.
All right. I think it's going to be a very good football game. We can get into pick them now, and I'll go through mine real quick, and I am picking this game, so I'll break this down for everybody real quick. Cottrell holding the lead coming in this week. Got to see what happens here. I got Superdog by actually, it's probably about down tied on percentage there. We'll see what happens this week. I think this week will decide who wins pick'em for the year. We're gonna do something for bowl games. We're just not going to include that in our official records, though. So we'll tell everybody what we're going to do next week when we come back on. But Let's get
Are we
into it.
doing Superdog this week? There's only one game.
No
that
Superdog.
qualifies.
No
Okay.
Superdog. So here are my 3 games. We talked about all of them, but I'm going Troy -6 at home over Appalachian State. Like I said, I like their offense, and I like their defense better than Appalachian State. This is not the normal Appalachian State that a lot of people are used to. I think Troy takes care of business at home. Second game, SMU +3.5 at Tulane. I'm going to stick with SMU plus the points. I think this is another very good football game. I think all the smaller group of 5 games later today are all very good games. I like SMU. I like their explosiveness. I know Tulane's at home. I know they have the better quarterback. Just think SMU, just the way they've been playing, they've really seemed to figure out their offense. And that even includes last week with the backup playing. So I will take the points on the road against Tulane. So give me SMU +3.5. Last but certainly not least, Georgia -6.5 against Alabama. Give me the Bulldogs. This is not the same type of game we've seen the last couple of years out of these teams. You would argue that Georgia won those games on kind of protecting the football with Stetson Bennett, making plays when they had to, and relying on that defense. This offense is completely different. Carson Beck has shown that he's a bona fide #1 star quarterback at the college level. They've opened the entire playbook for him. He could throw every pass in the book. Brock Bowers is obviously going to play today. I think Ladd plays as well. I think they'll be full strength offensively, and I think they have what it takes to really put that Alabama defense in a lot of peril. I think they can throw the ball deep. They can throw the ball intermediate. Obviously, they have the run game and the short screen, screen game as well. And I just don't think Milroe is going to be able to make enough plays to keep pace with that offense. This is, like I said, this is a different Georgia team than it's been the last 2 years. The strength of this team this year is their offense, and it's a very good offense. So I like Georgia -6.5. I think they take care of business today, and I think they lock down the #1 seed.
All right. I'll make my picks here really quick. I'll make my picks here real quick. I got Bama covering that 4.5 spread, obviously going against Bill's pick there. SMU covering that 3.5 points. I also really like Louisville +1 against Florida State today. And a little bonus pick, the Miami and Toledo game. I do like the under.
So my picks, we are obviously, there's only a select few games here, so we kind of clash on some of them, agree on some. I'm with Alex here. I like Bama plus. It's at 5.5 now. I took it on Wednesday at 6.5 versus Georgia. Gave you all my reasons in that game. Second game I like Oklahoma State to cover the 15.5 versus Texas. I don't think they win that football game, but I do think it's close because that's just the way the Big 12 championship games always end up. Last game, I like Tulane to cover the 3.5 at home versus SMU. Preston Stone not being there, it matters to me. I think Tulane is going to be able to score. They're going to have the home crowd behind them. They'll put up points. I think they scored 35. I think SMU is hovering around 27 or so. I think it's a one-possession game, but I like Tulane to cover the 3.5.
All right. Now the fun gets to start.
There we go.
I don't have anything final.
I don't either. I mean, we'll see how it all plays out. I think it's gonna be a great day of football. I'm overly relaxed more than I usually am for a situation like this. I think we take care of business tonight. Yeah, I know. The vaunted Iowa offense is coming to town.
We play the game for a reason, Bill.
You're right, we do. I just think it's going to turn out the way everybody thinks it's going to turn out. That's all. Nobody has anything closing. Listen, we will be back next week because we have to recap all of this madness next week. We will go over, obviously, the rankings and how they turn out, the top 4 preview. We'll give you our early previews on that. And then we are going to come up with something with all the bowl games. Justin was putting up in there like a guest spot. We might do something like that. We'll do a Bowl Mania type thing. And we have more than enough content to go through these next couple of weeks until we get to the college football playoff game. So between coaching stuff, the transfer portal is insanity already. We haven't even touched on that yet. So we will do that. Like I said, we'll give our early breakdown of the Final Four next week. And then, we'll go through. We're like, obviously, we'll see where Oregon ends up, where Ohio State ends up with all those with the New Year's Six bowl games. So we have a lot to go over next week too. So we will be back next Saturday at our normal time. Thank you all for being here. Justin, obviously, like every week, dude, you're the man. I appreciate it. Andre hopping on today. Gene was in here a lot today. Everybody that supports the show, listens, comments, we thank you all. Go watch football. Texas just kicked. So, hope all your winners win. Hope Michigan wins. And, we'll see everybody next week.
All right.